The giants of the Old Testament in historical times. Unlike other mythologies, the Old Testament is more realistic about the existence and creation of giants. Genesis 6 concerning the Nephilim. So according to the Old Testament, when the human race began to multiply, then the people of God who came from the generation of Seth saw the daughters of the corrupt people from the generation of Cain, that they were beautiful, and took them for their wives. From the union of the people of God with the corrupt daughters of men came the giants. They lived in ancient times and were famous people for that time, but like other people, they too were immersed in sin and corruption. And God, when he saw the carnality of man, decided to limit the lifespan of humans to 120 years. This is according to Genesis 6, verse 1 to 4. Before this story, people lived much longer, and according to the Bible, Adam lived 930 years, Seth lived 912, Enos 905, Canaan 910, Maleleel 895, Jared 962, Enoch 365, but he was taken up to God, Methuselah 969, and Lamech 777 years. At the time that Moses sent the 12 spies of the tribes of Israel to the promised land, the giant descendants of Anak lived in Hebron. The spies started from the Paran desert of Sinai, controlling the whole country from the Zin desert to the Ro, which lies to the north and leads to Aimath. Then they returned to the wilderness and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Shesi, and Thelami, descendants of the giant Anak, lived, according to Numbers 13, 22 to 23, and Deuteronomy 1:28. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. The word giant in the Old Testament is Nephil, which means strong, oppressor, tyrant, and giant. It appears 3 times in the Old Testament. Genesis 6:4 and Numbers 13.33. The plural is rendered with the word Nephilim. The giants mentioned in the Old Testament are also called Rephaims or Rephites, according to Deuteronomy 2:11, and are the same giants as those of all other traditions. From the above narration, we conclude that after the creation of man by God, there were 2 generations of people. The generation of Seth, that is, the people who lived close to God, and the generation of Cain, the people who lived far from God, who were immersed in sin and corruption. At some point, however, they began to marry each other, causing the whole human race to turn away from God and perish in sin. And one of the results of this union was the birth of the giants, the Nephilim, who, as seen in other parts of the Old Testament, prevailed on earth. Also, as can be seen from the descriptions, most of the giants were lost in a war they had with the common people, the war of the giants, and others in the flood that God waged to wickedness and corruption from the earth. However, whatever theory one follows, it's important that from the flood, whether it was global or local, that many people were saved, including several of the giants. In other words, they escaped the flood. Now, according to the Bible, the area in which some of the tribe of the Nephilim giants survived was Bashan, which is called the land of the giants, Deuteronomy 3:13. It's a mountainous region east of the Sea of Galilee, suitable for survival from the flood that struck the earth. And there the giants existed not only after the flood, but also in the days of Abraham and Moses. And we even know that, of course, the very famous battle between David and Goliath. Goliath, of course, was a giant, a Philistine giant with 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot. And he had, there were 5 brothers in all, which were huge like him. Now, when Holodomor and his allies went to war with the army of Sodom and Gomorrah, they cut off the giants of Ashtaroth and Karnaim in Bashan, according to Genesis 14:5. In the Old Testament, the spies of the days of Moses found the Nephilim in Canaan, according to Numbers 13:33, where he even calls the giants Nephilim. In other verses, such as Deuteronomy 1:28, referring to the same event, he identifies the Nephilim with the Anakim. The Bible refers to the word Anakim as referring to all the tribes of giants who lived around the Sea of Galilee, such as the Rephaims, the Amites, the Zumites, who were exterminated by Lot. Deuteronomy 2, verse 10, 11, and 21. The Anakites were strong and mighty, Numbers 13, 22, 23, Deuteronomy 9, 1-2. At the time that Moses sent the 12 spies to the promised land, the giant descendants of Anak and his sons Huma, Susi, Tholami, and who lived in Hebron, according to Numbers 13, Deuteronomy 1:28, and Joshua, son of Nun, Judges 1:10. Now Moses, when giving the final instructions to the Israelites, spoke of the descendants of Anak, who were tall men, living in cities with high walls, and were militarily strong, Deuteronomy 9, 1-2. Here is a description of the giants from the scouts that Moses sent to spy on the people of Canaan. They were seen as locusts, and they also saw us as such. Numbers 13, 27-33, Deuteronomy 1, 24-25. Og was the last king of the Amorites, who lived in Bashan. Og was the only remnant of the generation of giants in Bashan, according to Deuteronomy 3:11, and Joshua, the son of Nun, book of Joshua 12:4. His bed was made of iron and was kept in the citadel of the Ammonites. The length of his bed was 9 cubits, that is about 4.5 meters. That's over 14 feet. And with the width of 4 cubits, that's 2.2 meters, according to Deuteronomy 3:11. Before entering Canaan, the Israelites reached the area of Bashan. The king of Bashan, Og, went out with his army to fight them. The Israelites struck Bashan and his army at Adrian, and they killed Og and his sons, as well as all the people, took the lands, according to Numbers 21, Deuteronomy 3, and book of Joshua 12. When Joshua conquered the cities of southern Canaan, he also conquered Hebron. The city was besieged and captured by Caleb. Hebron was inhabited at that time by the giant Anakites. The city was then called Arvok, or Kiriath Arva, or Kiriath Kephar. City of Kephar, we know means city. City of Arab. Arab was the largest man among the Anakites, according to the book of Joshua 14:15 and Judges 1:10. Caleb, on the orders of Joshua, captured Hebron and the capital of the Anakites and exterminated the 3 sons of Anak, Ahima, Susi, and Tholami, according to the Joshua 10:36. So Joshua exterminated the giant Anakim, who lived in Hebron, Davir, Anaboth, and throughout the mountainous region of Judah and Israel. He destroyed them and destroyed their cities. There are no descendants of the giant Anak left in the country, only a few in Gaza, Geth, and Ashdod, according to Joshua 11:21-22. When Joshua captured the cities of southern Canaan, he annihilated the giant Anakim who lived in Hebron, Dabir, Anaboth, and all the mountainous regions of Judah and Israel. He destroyed them and destroyed their cities. There was no descendant of the giant Anak left in Canaan, only a few in Gaza, Geth, Ashdod, and Hebron was besieged by Caleb. Caleb, by order of Joshua, captured Hebron, capital of the Anakites, exterminated the 3 sons. After the settlement of the Israelites in the Promised Land, these high-ranking tribes were exterminated, and no longer were the Anakim left in Israel. Only in Gaza, in Gethsemane, and in Nitrogen, they remained mixed with the Philistines, according to book of Joshua 11:21-22. One of them was Goliath from Gath. His height was about 2.5 meters. He wore a helmet on his head and a chain chest made of copper and iron, which weighed about 50 kilos. That's over 100 pounds. He had bronze leggings on his feet and a bronze shield on his shoulders. His spear was thick and large, like the instead of a loom, and his iron spear weighed about 6.5 kilograms, according to 1 Kings 17. During David's duel with Goliath, after the giant's ironic remarks to the small young David, he reached into his bag, picked up a stone, and hurled it at the giant, and the stone pierced the helmet and was thrown at the forehead of Goliath, who was mortally wounded and fell face down on the ground. And then David stood up over the grieving wounded Goliath, drew his sword out of the Philistine scabbard, and beheaded him. Now, after Saul's 7 descendants were killed by Gibeonites, David commanded Dan, the son of Joah, the descendant of the giants, to come down and pick up the hanging corpses which David buried with Saul's bones of Jonathan in the tomb of Kish, father of Saul, according to 2 Kings 21. After several years, new battles were fought between Philistines and Israelites. David also took part in the first battle, but he got tired due to his old age, and among the Philistines was Jesse, one of the descendants of the giants. His spear weighed more than 30 shekels of copper, or that's about 3,500 grams. He was bound with a bat, and with this he rushed, determined to do away with David, but Abishai hurried and helped David, and he struck Jesse and killed him. Now, after the battle, a new one took place in the area of Gath, in Gazer, between the Israelites and the Philistines. And there, Shevokah from Astathoth did away with the giant chief Saphu. In another battle at Gob, Eleonor, son of Ariorgim, Jair of Bethlehem, did away with Lachmi, brother of the giant Goliath of Gath, whose spearhead was like a loom. Another battle in the Gath area was there was a bald giant who had 6 fingers and toes, a total of 24 fingers and toes. He kept insulting the Israelites, but Jonathan, the son of Shimi, and the nephew of David, did away with him. All 4 of these warriors were the last descendants of the giants from the house of Rapha in Gath, who were done away with by David and his soldiers. Thus, in the time of David, the last giants were killed, at least in Israel. So this I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.